Welcome to the Sourcing Hero podcast, produced by Una, a group purchasing organization that empowers sourcing heroes, and Art of Procurement, the world's largest procurement podcast network. I'm your host, Kelly Barner. The goal of the Sourcing Hero podcast is to capture the epic stories of people who are rising up and beating the odds to create exceptional value within procurement, directly from those heroes themselves.
Today, my guest here on the Sourcing Hero podcast is Samah Ali. Samah is a supply chain professional with over 15 years of experience and a master's degree in logistics, procurement, and supply chain management. She is based in Bahrain and has worked in industries as diverse as retail and food production. So, Samah, I am so glad to have you with me today.
Thank you for having me, Kelly.
Absolutely. And I shared a very high level overview of your education, of your work experience. But what else do you think maybe it's interesting for people to know about your professional journey to this point?
I could share how I started in supply chain. I
That sounds
started
great.
in freight forwarding and imports, and then I have transitioned into strategic procurement and logistic leadership. As you mentioned, I have 15 years of experience in different supply chain fields: retail, FMCG, production, mainly focusing on MENA market, Middle East market. I am based in Bahrain now, and I handle the MENA market. And what else can I mention? I'm passionate about supplier relationships, driving cost efficiencies, strategies. Yeah, I guess that's about me and my journey.
One of the things that's very unique about your journey, I think a lot of the people listening in will be very jealous, is that you had the opportunity to get an education in procurement and supply chain before
Right,
you started working in the field. Most of
right.
us train for something else, we sort of fall in, and then we're trying to catch up educationally. How do
Exactly.
you feel like having that, even if it is academic, but that
Yes.
background, how did that help you sort of hit the ground running once you actually had a job in the field?
Yeah, it does help a lot, of course, definitely. So having a formal education will help you succeed. Of course, I have a master's degree in procurement logistic. It How I feel is that it give me the ability to connect the theory, what we study in the books and presentations, to the field realities, what happens at work and what happens in projects and what happens in the markets that we manage. It builds a foundation to challenge with strategic mindset. It builds a foundation to use analytical tools, so you don't just sit at your work and do the firefighting part,
Yeah.
but you look ahead, you look like beyond that. So yeah, I think that's it. If I would talk about the masters, if I would talk about the SIPS certification, yes, I would recommend, of course, every
Yeah.
procurement professional to be certified with the SIPS. I am certified. I am a licensed trainer as well. And I think being a trainer for this certification, like globally approved certification, it made me, I want to learn all the time, lifelong learner. I have to be updated. And then I have like my students who are coming to my classes and attending these procurement and logistic classes, where I feel that I need to do the role of mentoring them and
Mm.
welcoming them and then preparing them to the field that they are working in already, or they are like newly joining. So back to your question, it gives me confidence, it
Yeah.
makes me updated and connected also, and it gives the language and structure and credibility, of course, looking at the region where it's still maybe mature in the still not very mature, sorry, in that region and that
Yeah.
field. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing that's exciting about this is we have had guests from all over the world, but you
Yeah.
are officially our first guests from Bahrain. Uh,
Nice.
well, you
Okay.
get the prize for that.
Oh,
Um,
great.
what would you like to share about living and working in the Middle East that colleagues in Europe and North America might be surprised to
Mm,
learn?
okay, so I'll tell you about Bahrain. Bahrain is an island. It's a small country. It is small, but it's vibrant.
Yeah.
People are well connected. Like the community are well connected. There is always something there to do. The thing is, the culture, it's multicultural, welcoming expat. If I am speaking to people sitting in Europe or in US, it's a hub of the Middle East. Also looking at its location when it's at the middle. That's about Bahrain. I remember that information also. Bahrain has the first airport built in the Gulf region. So looking at its location. Yes, that's about Bahrain. Generally, the Middle East, the region, it's fast paced. If I would find a word to explain it, it's fast paced. Things are happening very fast,
Yeah.
faster than like if I would compare myself to my colleagues who's doing like the same job in Europe or in US. So projects are moving fast, government regulations are coming fast and being implemented fast, trade agreements are changing. But with this, there it's full of opportunities, full of opportunities. The region here is, I think, and I would call it relationship driven. If you are in the procurement field, you need to have relationship in order to succeed in your field. Yeah, this is it. I have a combination. We usually have a combination of global suppliers, regional suppliers, local suppliers. Yeah, I think this is how I would describe
Yeah.
Bahrain and Middle East in terms of the country and in terms of how I see procurement. Yeah,
How does being an island nation shape your inbound and outbound supply chains? I mean, it must play a direct role in the
definitely.
partnerships you form, the strategies you implement.
Definitely, definitely. It's Bahrain is an island, so we do not have land borders. That makes the limited land connectivity. We have
Mm,
one bridge only connecting Bahrain to Saudi. So port operations and inbound lead times are crucial because we import by sea, we import by land, yes, but the port operations are really crucial. People and logistics and like supply chain in general, we need to be experts or masters in cross-border logistic, like
mm,
from to like different borders. I think maybe also contingency planning because things just happen and you do not have like the enough supplies on the
yeah.
island, then you need to find a way to handle that situation, especially for pharmaceuticals or FMCG or perishable items. Yes.
Yeah. And to that point about contingency planning, do you find that perhaps the warehousing or inventory management strategies, maybe the inventory on hand tolerances are a little bit different than a country might have if they actually have land borders to more other trading partners?
It should be different, yes, because companies or like, yes, companies need to ensure that they do have the enough stock on the island, the stock that they are going to need, and some safety buffer. Because if there is no stock, then you don't have the supply that
Yeah.
would make your factory operate, would make your retail store work. So, yes, generally, if you look at warehouses here in the region, we have a hot weather and the temperature outside is high. So we look at the temperature controlled warehouses. Like we have frozen, we have chilled, we have ambient. Even the ambient has to be also
Yeah.
refrigerated. I mean, like temperature controlled. What we need to do is that we need to be efficient and optimizing the space of the warehouses. It's an island and the space is limited compared to the demand that other companies need the storage space. Yeah, so what I would say about warehouses is that they need to be temperature controlled for the perishables and pharmaceuticals and FMCG. And I would say also we need to be smart in how we
Mm.
store our pallets. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So, Sama, before we wrap up our conversation, we have a tradition here on the Sourcing Hero podcast, and I want to
Mhm,
bring you in on this. So, I'm going to give you two questions. You can pick
mhm,
either one, and we haven't heard a wrong answer yet. So, your two choices are either
mhm,
what does the idea of a sourcing
mhm.
hero mean to you? Or if
Okay.
you want to go a little bit broader, what do you think heroism looks like in a business context?
Mm. Okay, I would choose the first one
Okay.
since it has sourcing and I do. Sourcing hero. is a person that eh, he is doing sourcing, but he is seeing something beyond and over the operational part of the procurement. So we know that procurement has the transactional part like PO, invoice, documents going and coming, but between supplier and buyer. But if you want to be a sourcing hero, you need to look at the strategic part of your procurement. Like you a person needs to look at the value creation of the procurement projects that he's handling. He needs to look at resilience. Are we ready for whatever is coming? He needs to look at risk. What could go wrong out of that deal? Of course, ethics. We need to deal with the proper suppliers who are following the ethical way of working, sustainability, transparency. I guess, yeah. So the sourcing hero, is a person who needs to have the clarity and also lead without authority. So he would lead
Oh,
his stakeholders, he would lead his suppliers, he would lead the people that he's working with. He doesn't need like to be a manager or some title. He doesn't need to wait for a title, but he needs to be like a natural leader. Yeah, I guess that's my what came into my mind when I heard a sourcing hero.
excellent. Well, we always like to hear those bigger picture perspectives, right? Go beyond what's asked of you. Don't wait for permission. Sama, if people have enjoyed listening to our conversation, maybe have met you for the first time through this episode
Mhm,
of the Sourcing Hero podcast, what
mhm.
would be the best way for them to reach out and get in touch with you?
I am available on LinkedIn. Maybe I can provide a link to that. I am always open to supply chain conversation, training, mentoring, collaboration. Open to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sama. And we will put a link to your LinkedIn profile wherever you're listening to or watching this episode. So definitely reach out and say hello. But thank you
Sure.
so much for being with me today to share
Thank
your
you. Thank you.
experience.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Sourcing Hero podcast. Join us again next time for more true stories of sourcing and business heroism performed by your colleagues and peers. Look for the Sourcing Hero wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe. Finally, don't forget, sourcing heroism is taking place all around us every day. Keep your eyes open and you're bound to see it. Until next time, I'm your host, Kelly Barner. Stay well and always remember that you can be a hero too.